don't understand.
No, it doesn't seem complicated. I am the Inquisitor. Welcome.
What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. One of the blessings or curses, depending on how you look at it, when you have kids, is that sometimes you have to watch their shows. And in my case, it was great because I started watching Star Wars Rebels with them. And I am obsessed with the main villain in Season 1, which is the Grand Inquisitor. I want to do something a little bit different today. We're going to do a little bit of a character profile on the Grand Inquisitor, his background and origin, some of the toys that are out there, including 2 in my collection, and also talk about potential plans in the future for the character with all the new Disney shows coming out. So let's take a closer look.
From Wikipedia, the Inquisitorius was a group of Force sensitives, and they were sometimes called Red Blades or more dismissively as Mystics by Imperial officers. They were recruited by the Empire to hunt down Jedi who survived Order 66, and at least some of the Inquisitors were once Jedi themselves. The Grand Inquisitor was apparently once a Jedi Temple Guard. I wish the show had dove into that in more detail. One interesting point is that most of the Inquisitors were non-humans, and that's something that is fairly abnormal since the Empire has a prejudice against non-humans in a lot of the books. The first human Inquisitor, the Second Sister, made her debut in Jedi Fallen Order, the video game. The Inquisitors seem to have ceased to exist by the time of A New Hope, since Darth Vader is mentioned to be the only Force wielder in the Emperor's service, which means that the Inquisitors must have been disbanded or they all died off. Star Wars Rebels debuted in a 1-hour TV film on October 3rd, 2014, and began as an ongoing series 10 days later. The stories take place 5 years before the events of A New Hope, as the Empire was tightening its grip over the galaxy 14 years after the Clone Wars and the wiping out of most of the Jedi through Order 66. The main characters are a diverse crew of rebels fighting the Empire in covert operations and helping others suffering under the Empire's rule. While the TV show starts out as somewhat basic, where the heroes get in trouble but manage to escape, the typical story arc, I think once the creators realized the appeal of the show had broadened to beyond just children, they begin to explore some of the dynamics between the main characters, and that's when the show really takes off in my mind. The show's plots become much more interesting. The Grand Inquisitor makes his first appearance on the show at the beginning of Season 1 in a 2-part episode called The Spark of Rebellion. I was immediately intrigued by the aesthetics and role of the Inquisitor, although his origins and motivations are not really fleshed out in any meaningful way. Without delving too much into spoilers, the Inquisitor makes his final appearance on the show in episode 15, called Fire Across the Galaxy. Let's just say that the Inquisitor fears Darth Vader's wrath due to failure more than anything else. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that there are 4 different Inquisitor action figures, at least based on my research. In 2014, there was the Saga Legends example, which has really nice card art. There's also the Hero Series 12-inch Inquisitor. And then in 2015, there are 2 examples. First, the Hero Mashers, which is more of a child's toy, and then the Force Awakens 5 points of articulation version of the Inquisitor. Of these, I only have the 5 POA Force Awakens version. So let's take a look at that one now.
So here is the only action figure in my collection for the Inquisitor, and it's a 5 POA figure that came out with the Force Awakens line. You can see Kylo Ren there on the card back, but this figure was packed in with a wave I bought a long time ago, and I didn't know who he was back then and never really looked into him, but now that I'm watching Rebels, I was like, I think I've got one, and I found him on my wall of shame. I've got a number of 5 POA figures in star cases kind of hanging on the wall for decoration, and this is one of them. And when I say a number, I mean like 300 or 400. It's a little excessive, but I really like this figure the more I look at it when I pulled it down for this video. He's got such great eyes for a 5 POA figure. Just really well designed, great sculpt. Really captures the kind of animated style of the Star Wars Rebels cartoon. And he does come packed in with that double-bladed saber. But really nice card art there. And all of these 5 POA figures have these combiner type things that you could combine together. So, you know, you would combine the piece with General Hux and with the Guavian Enforcer to make some kind of large contraption. It's almost like a transformer. But anyway, it does mention Star Wars Rebels on the back, and it goes into just a very small amount of detail that we've kind of already talked about, which is that he is a servant of Darth Vader and the Empire. The Inquisitor was tasked with hunting down and eliminating Jedi who survived Order 66. The only other interesting point I wanted to make about this card is that he's called the Inquisitor here, whereas in some other things he's called the Grand Inquisitor. So anyway, just a interesting tidbit of information there, but a very nice figure, and I'm glad I have it, with the rest of my 5 POA figures hanging up there.
In 2020, Hasbro released the entire Rebels team in the Black Series 6-inch line, along with an updated Ahsoka. And I'm a little bit surprised that the Inquisitor didn't make the cut for this initial batch, but I think a number of factors played in. First, the Inquisitor really only had a prominent role in Season 1 of Star Wars Rebels, and Ahsoka is a very popular figure that is very expensive in the original black and red box. Whether Hasbro revisits this line, I think, will depend on how much the Inquisitor actually makes an appearance in the live-action TV shows that are coming out in late 2021 and into 2022. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. The only Inquisitor-related Black Series figure that Hasbro has released so far is the one you see on the far left, which is the second sister Inquisitor. But that was really just part of the Jedi Fallen Order video game release wave that included Cal Kestis and the Scout Trooper, as well as the Purge Stormtrooper. I just wonder if a Grand Inquisitor Black Series figure will not be released until later this fall, if and when he makes an appearance in the new Disney shows.
And so here is the only other Grand Inquisitor item in my collection, and I apologize for the glare. Having a graded comic in your collection is very difficult to film. But this is an item I picked up fairly recently after my obsession began with Star Wars Rebels. And this is the first true appearance, and I'll get to that in a second, of the Grand Inquisitor in comic book form. This is a December 2017 CGC universal graded comic, and this is graded 9.8 with white pages. I don't have many comics, but I've started picking up a few inexpensive ones here and there. I'm certainly not going to speculate on them and try to make money on them, but because I started liking the Grand Inquisitor so much and I saw this for sale, I went ahead and grabbed it. And so this is, in my mind anyway, based on everything I could find online, and you comic book experts can correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is the first true appearance of the Grand Inquisitor in comic book form. Just an awesome cover to the comic. There is another one called Kanan, the Last Padawan, issue number 12, that is also mentioned. And I'll put a graphic right here so you can see what that looks like. That one is also mentioned as a first appearance. That one came out in 2015, so technically that's earlier than this. But this one is regarded by most comic collectors that I know of as the first true appearance. So, but anyway, this is a really nice item. There's the back of it. It's just an ad, basically, for Star Wars Destiny. But it's a really cool item. Like I said, I don't have many graded comics, but that's slowly changing. I am not trying to make any money on these. I just pick up ones that I like, and this is certainly one. But just a great cover to the comic book, and I love the way it looks there. It's just so menacing, and it looks like it's got Vader's helmet there, kind of cut in half. So I don't know what's going on in the story. I should look at the story arc. Now, while this is a modern comic, it is kind of interesting to take a look at the CGC census information. And CGC is, similar to AFA with action figures, and they keep a population report for everything that gets graded, just like AFA does. And so let's cut to that now so you can take a closer look and see what I'm talking about.
So as I mentioned, CGC offers a census or population report for any comic that has been graded, and here's the report for the Darth Vader number 6 that I just showed you in my collection. As is typical for most modern comics, the vast majority of the ones graded so far are 9.8 in quality. So 21 of the 25 copies of this issue that have been graded so far, at least as of the making of this video, have received a near mint plus to mint score. The more interesting statistic, though, is how the number of issues that have been graded by CGC has sharply increased. There's just 3 weeks ago only 7 total copies of the comic had been graded by CGC, so the number of issues that have been graded has tripled very quickly. This probably indicates to me that collectors are expecting an increase in demand for this comic in the event that a live-action version of the Rebels becomes a reality at some point in the future. So let's touch on that subject now. The rumors have definitely heated up for some of the characters in the cartoon version of Star Wars Rebels. The original voice actor of Grand Admiral Thrawn has supposedly signed on to play the same role in a live-action depiction, most likely on the Ahsoka spinoff. The other big recent rumor that leads me to believe that the Rebels will eventually make their way to a live-action appearance is that the star of the recent Aladdin movie has apparently signed on to play one of the key characters in Star Wars Rebels, Ezra Bridger. The voice actor for the Inquisitor, Jason Isaacs, has also gone on record as saying that he would love to reprise his role in a live-action appearance. He is a highly accomplished actor, having starred in some major films such as a Harry Potter film, The Patriot with Mel Gibson, and Black Hawk Down, to just name a few. Based on the photos shown here, they could give his hair the AFG treatment and some white makeup and he would look perfect. The pieces all seem to be in place for Star Wars Rebels to make the jump from cartoons to either a multi-episode appearance on one of the many shows coming to Disney Plus, or their own show outright. I bet we learn more in the coming months as the fall TV schedule and filming for 2022 gets finalized.
Whether the Grand Inquisitor takes off with mainstream audiences, I think depends a lot on making him a little bit more dynamic of a character. Right now, he just plays the straight villain in Star Wars Rebels, and I think they would have to add some complexity to the character in order for people to really have a genuine interest in him. It'll be interesting to see what Disney does with all of these shows coming out and whether he plays a role. That's all I really had for this video. If you liked it, be sure to like and subscribe for future content. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.